Let's be honest for a sec here. Most of the workout and health advice in the industry is catered towards men. I mean, look at most of the most popular workout programs now. P90X, all these get shredded doctor books you see in the bookstores, they're really catered towards men, and there are not a lot of good resources dedicated towards women, especially women over 40. But there is one particular big challenge women have that men don't have to the same extent, and that's hormones. So in today's video, I'm going to show you the 3 main hormones out of balance in women and how to naturally rebalance those for the better weight loss and honestly, just feeling a lot better. What's up everyone, Alex Hine here over at modernhealthmonk.com. So Dr. Sarah Gottfried in her book, The Hormone Cure, and honestly on her site, she covers a lot of great stuff for women. Now seeing as most of my students and most of my clients are women and women over 40, there are a lot of key strategies I've implemented for hormonal rebalancing in a natural way, and Dr. Sarah brings up a lot of great points. So the 3 we're really going to take a look at here today are estrogen, which tends to be high in women, thyroid, which tends to be low or less functioning, cortisol, which also tends to be high, and that's also true in men. And really, these hormones play a very critical role because they play a very substantial part in how you feel, also how you look, especially as you age, and as well as other illnesses like polycystic ovary syndrome. So let's jump in and get started here. So if you really find yourself not feeling great, like you've got low energy, low sex drive, you're cranky, you're irritable, your sleep is total crap, you don't really feel like yourself and you're holding on to weight, chances are there's a very good chance that there's a hormonal imbalance occurring here. With excess estrogen, which tends to be really common, both overweight men and women, but with women with excess estrogen, one of the first things that it's most linked to is just being overweight. So the very act of losing weight is going to help lower the hormone estrogen. Now, one of the things that's also common is the same in men. When men gain fat, they gain excess estrogen. And if it gets serious, they gain things like man boobs and a lessening of testosterone, lowering of their sex drive. So it is with both sexes and both genders. Now, I've also talked to a lot of women that have polycystic ovary syndrome, and that's also strongly linked to excess estrogen. So how do you actually lower estrogen? Well, one of the first things is just losing weight. Now, there are also specific tactics I want to recommend here. The first is actually a higher protein, lower carb diet. The reason for that is that this is a pretty globally overall good diet for changing body composition. And a diet that's too high in carbohydrates can actually increase inflammation as well. So going slightly higher protein than you're used to and slightly lower carb can also help dramatically. Now the second thing is really limiting alcohol. So alcohol, except for red wine, good news, alcohol really does increase estrogen both in men and in women. So limiting that is going to do a lot, especially for weight loss as well. Beer is very fattening as a liquid carbohydrate. So that's the next step I would suggest. And the third thing is limiting chemical exposure to xenoestrogen. So our modern diet and our modern world is filled with xenoestrogen. So these are basically chemical compounds found, for example, in BPA, the chemical found in plastic. There's a big scandal going on years ago in those Nalgene bottles. Avoiding exposure to these xenoestrogens, I'm sure you could Google a full list of all of them, is really going to help rebalance hormones as well. So for lowering estrogen, a quick recap: lower the fat mass, and in general focus on weight loss. Increase things like your protein, decrease the carbs, decrease the alcohol with the exception of red wine. Good news. And then finally, limit chemical exposure, limit pesticide exposure, all that kind of stuff. Now the other 2 hormones here we started talking about were thyroid and cortisol. Thyroid is really critical for regulating your metabolism. Cortisol is the primary stress hormone in the body. Now thyroid and cortisol are very closely linked. So as cortisol goes up, so as your stress increases, the functioning of your thyroid decreases. So that's why it's so important to have that stress management routine, because there's a direct correlation between the increase in your stress and the decrease in functioning of your thyroid, which is important for regulating your metabolism. So for this, I'm going to really help you focus on lowering your cortisol levels rather than directly addressing your thyroid. So the first thing is to honestly sleep as much as humanly possible. If you can sleep more or sleep better, I know this is a huge request for most women, try to actively make it a priority, because again, lack of sleep will also increase your cortisol levels. I mean, you can feel it. You can feel stressed out from the lack of sleep, and your hormones will reflect that. The second thing here is decreasing stimulants. So people today are really jacked up on staying awake and staying focused and not sleeping and being productive and getting all this stuff done. But the very act of increasing your stimulants like caffeine or whatever else you're using to stay awake, they also increase your cortisol. So the caffeine increases the stress response in your body. And I think it's dose dependent. So the more you intake, the more your stress response goes up. So the second thing is, if you're really going excess on the caffeine or the stimulants, or you're really going hard at your job, like you're a really ambitious woman, this is the time to slow down, sleep more, rest more, focus on recuperation and recovery. This is the time to do it, and you are going to see results when you do that. I know it's probably extremely hard if you are one of these overworked types, but make it a priority. And the third thing here is something you've heard a lot before: focus on your stress management. Whatever it is you use to de-stress at the end of a long day, start doing it, and start doing it religiously. Whether it's having fun, having that glass of wine, going out with friends, going to a movie, doing a hobby, whatever it is, start doing it. So for cortisol, to minimize the cortisol, there are other things as well, like you can take adaptogenic herbs. We'll talk more about that soon. But really the main things are sleep more, focus on the rest, the recovery, the slowing down, all that kind of stuff, the chilling out. Limit the alcohol, limit the stimulants like caffeine or the Red Bull if you're taking any of those kinds of things, and really focus on your rest and your recovery. So your tiny habit for today is pretty simple. If you're a woman, especially a woman over 40, follow these really basic prescriptions. Focus on the cortisol, the thyroid, the estrogen hormones, and the basic prescriptions I gave you there. They're pretty simple, they're pretty straightforward, not complex. They don't take a lot of money, but those are really going to help you rebalance those hormones naturally. And once you do that, you're going to see some big changes in how you look and how you feel. So I hope that helps. If you are on YouTube, make sure you go on over to modernhealthmonk.com. I've got a real food weight loss habits guide for you there. Get that over there because that's where all my ultimate guides are. There's a lot of stuff over there for you. If you're also on YouTube, click the subscribe button. You'll get the next video right when it's out. And I want to hear from you below. What have been some of your frustrations, particularly as a woman over 40? What have been your frustrations with trying to lose weight? Tell me below. Thanks so much. Take care, and I'll see you next time.